नमस्कार मेजर जनरल शर्मा, नमस्कार जी, नमस्कार वाइस चांसलर साहब और डियर पार्टिसिपेंट्स। मैं शुरुआत कुछ शब्द हिंदी से करना चाहूंगा क्योंकि मेरा ख्याल है इस देश की भाषा ज्यादातर लोग जो बोलते हैं वो हिंदी है। अंग्रेजी एक इम्पोर्टेड भाषा है जो हमने अडॉप्ट कर रखी है और उसके कारण से बहुत सारी कठिनाइयां और बहुत सारी प्रॉब्लम्स है इस देश में। मैं आपको पब्लिक इंटरेस्ट लिटिगेशन के बारे में बात करने से पहले कुछ प्रिलिमिनरी चीजें बताना चाहता हूं। आप सबको शायद जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं, मैंने मेजर जनरल शर्मा से पूछा था कि आपकी डेट ऑफ बर्थ क्या है, तो इन्होंने बताया था कि ये पोस्ट इंडिपेंडेंस एरा में पैदा हुए थे। मुझे पता नहीं कि वाइस चांसलर साहब कब पैदा हुए, लेकिन लगता है कि वो भी भारत की स्वतंत्रता के बाद में पैदा हुए। जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं वो सारे भारत की स्वतंत्रता के बाद में पैदा हुए। हमारी सबसे बड़ी विडंबना ये है कि संविधान 1950 में लागू हुआ, लेकिन उसके बारे में भारत की आज की 138 करोड़ जनता की 1 या 2% से ज्यादा लोग नहीं जानते हैं। हेलो,
यस सर।
आपको ये बताना चाहूंगा कि जब कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली कैबिनेट मिशन प्लान 1946 के तहत बनी थी, उसमें 389 मेंबर्स थे और 93 प्रोविंसेस को चीफ कमिश्नर को रिप्रेजेंट करते थे। एक साल बाद में इस असेंबली में से मुस्लिम लीग ने विड्रॉ कर लिया क्योंकि देश का पार्टीशन हो चुका था और अंत में 200 से 229 लोगों ने कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली में पार्टिसिपेट किया। आपको शायद ये भी बताना जरूरी है कि कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली के प्रेसिडेंट थे डॉक्टर राजेंद्र प्रसाद, जो भारत के प्रथम राष्ट्रपति बने, और कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंट असेंबली ने ड्राफ्ट करने के लिए, कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन को ड्राफ्ट करने के लिए 13 कमेटीज बनाई। उन 13 कमेटीज ने 2 साल तक काम किया और फाइनली ड्राफ्टिंग कमेटी 7 लोगों की बनी डॉक्टर बी.आर. अंबेडकर की प्रेसिडेंटशिप में। इस ड्राफ्टिंग कमेटी ने 1946 में, हेलो,
यस,
1949 में ड्राफ्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन प्रेजेंट, 1948 में ड्राफ्ट कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन प्रेजेंट किया। वो लोगों के व्यूज के लिए 8 महीने तक पब्लिश किया गया और अल्टीमेटली नवंबर 1949 में आपका कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एक्सेप्ट हुआ। नमस्कार डॉक्टर शर्मा, आपका संविधान लागू हुआ 1949 में और हम डेट लेते हैं 26 जनवरी 1950 क्योंकि जो प्रियम्बल है हमने एक्सेप्ट किया था 1950 में। अब अगर जिन स्टूडेंट्स के पास में प्रियम्बल है तो वो उसको खोल लें, तो उसकी 4-5 लाइनें हैं, वो बहुत महत्वपूर्ण है। जनरल शर्मा,
यस लॉर्डशिप,
और प्रांशुल जी एंड डॉक्टर शर्मा, it is absolutely necessary for each one of us, those who are literate, not necessarily educated. I consider that majority of us are still uneducated. We are literate, we have degrees. For example, I have degree of BSc LLB, but still I consider that I am not fully educated, and majority of us are not, because we do not, although when the constitution was enforced on 26th of January, very well the present generation can say that we were not there at that time. But what we did on 26th of January 1950, we said, we the people of India, the people of India include you, me, and all those who are participating, and all those who are called now migrant workers, they are included. We the people of India, having solemnly resolved to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic, यहाँ पर जो सोशलिस्ट और सेक्युलर वर्ड्स देखते हैं वो 1977 में ऐड हुए थे। हमने डिक्लेरेशन तो कर दिया दैट वी हैव बिकम ए सॉवरेन डेमोक्रेटिक रिपब्लिक, लेकिन उसके साथ क्या किया? उसके साथ हमने एक ओथ ली थी, और वो ओथ ये थी, and to secure to all its citizens, and to secure to all its citizens justice, justice coupled with the word social, then economic, and then political. We also took oath to ensure liberty, freedoms. We also took oath to ensure equality of status and opportunity. And finally, we decided fraternity, assuring something most important in our country, in our life, assuring dignity of individuals. Friends, when we became independent, we had 28 crore, population of 28 crores. In 1975, it was 74 crores. And as in 2020, it is 130 crores and more than that. You will be surprised to know that as per the government's own appointed committees, Rangarajan Committee, submitting a report as early as in 2014, says that 23.6% people in this country live below poverty line. And young friends, those who are all sitting, we are sitting in cozy air-conditioned rooms, do not know who is below poverty line. A person who earns 123 rupees 60 paisa per day is below poverty line. And if 23.6% of the people in this country today in 2020 live below poverty line, just imagine, we can't possibly countenance, we can only imagine how many people do not get meals twice a day. 4 million, they are not assured of meals twice a day, right? Now we enacted the constitution.
Can I interject in between for small points, sir?
Yes, please. Yes.
सर, ये हमारे जो आईटी के हैं वो ये कह रहे हैं कि आप एक बार डिसएंगेज कर दें और दोबारा आप अगर कनेक्ट करें तो शायद वीडियो आ जाएगा. इज दैट?
मैंने डिसएंगेज किया है
जी.
वीडियो ऑफ किया है.
नहीं सर, जो
सर वीडियो ऑफ की जगह आपको ये लाल क्रॉस निशान कर देंगे और वापस से लिंक पे जाके लॉगिन कर देंगे तो वो आ जाएगा सर.
सर आप कर्सर अगर जब बीच में लाते हैं तो 6-7 आइकन्स आते हैं सर. तो एक रेड क्रॉस आ रहा है सर. अगर आप इस रेड क्रॉस को करेंगे तो आप मीटिंग से डिसएंगेज हो जाएंगे. और
कहते हैं लीव इवेंट आता है.
यस सर.
जी सर.
एक बार लिंक पे लॉगिन करना होगा,
फिर दोबारा उसी लिंक पे जाके लॉर्डशिप दोबारा आपको करेंगे तो फिर आप
सर उन्होंने लीव कर दिया ऑलरेडी और वो वापस लॉगिन कर रहे हैं.
ओके. प्रांशुल
के उसके बाद में पार्ट 3 हमने हमारे स्टूडेंट्स ऑफ लॉ हैं उनको हम सब सिर्फ पढ़ाते क्या है, प्रीएम्बल बहुत कर्सरी तौर पे पढ़ाते हैं और उसके बाद में कहते हैं फंडामेंटल राइट्स. और हम सब लोग बड़े गर्व से राइट्स की बात करते हैं. स्टूडेंट्स, आप सब लोगों से निवेदन करूंगा कि आप पार्ट 4 को जरूर पढ़िए. एक आर्टिकल खोल लीजिए, आर्टिकल 38, और उसमें 3 शब्द हैं वो इंपॉर्टेंट है. फर्स्ट 3, डॉक्टर शर्मा, जनरल शर्मा, स्टेट शेल.
यस सर.
39 खोलिए, द स्टेट शेल. 39A खोलिए, द स्टेट शेल. 51 तक चले जाइए आप.
यस.
एक एक्सप्रेशन आपके कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन फ्रेमर्स ने डेलिबरेटली यूज किया, द स्टेट शेल. और पार्ट 3 में भी आर्टिकल 14, 15 और 16 टुगेदर, द स्टेट शेल नॉट डिस्क्रिमिनेट. 14 तो जनरल है, 15 और 16 स्पेशल हैं, पर्टिकुलर टॉपिक्स को डील करते हैं। उसमें कहते हैं देयर शैल बी नो डिस्क्रिमिनेशन ऑन द ग्राउंड ऑफ कास्ट, कलर, creed, sex, race, religion, place of residence। 1 मिनट के लिए रुकिए, सोचिए, और एक और इसके साथ जोड़िएगा। प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया और वाइस प्रेसिडेंट ऑफ इंडिया ओथ लेते हैं कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के अंडर। आपके मिनिस्टर्स ओथ लेते हैं 3rd शेड्यूल ऑफ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में। आपके जजेस ओथ लेते हैं शेड्यूल 3 में। आपके मेंबर्स ऑफ पार्लियामेंट ओथ लेते हैं शेड्यूल 3 में। और सब कहते हैं वी शैल अपहोल्ड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन एंड वैल्यूज ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन। मुझे तो बहुत शर्म आती है, मैं 71 की उम्र हो चुकी है और लॉ करीब करीब 50 साल हो चुके हैं। आई फील ashamed that all our politicians and majority of judges violate the oath which they take to abide by the constitution, integrity of this nation. We will decide without fear and favor। आपने रिसेंट इवेंट देखा है?
जी जी
साहब, आपने पेपर्स में पढ़ा होगा।
जी सर, जी सर।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट में एक पिटिशन फाइल हुई थी। जगदीश चौखर है जो ह्यूमन राइट्स का काम करते हैं। एक तो शब्द यूज किया, खैर वो गलत है, माइग्रेंट वर्कर। चलिए उसको छोड़िए। उन्होंने एक पिटिशन फाइल की कि ये जो माइग्रेंट वर्कर्स हैं, लाखों लोग सड़क पर चल रहे हैं, 100 किलोमीटर चलते हैं, 200 किलोमीटर, 300 किलोमीटर, 500 किलोमीटर, 1000 किलोमीटर, 2000 किलोमीटर। प्लीज मेक प्रोविजन फॉर देयर फूड, देयर सेफ्टी, देयर स्टे। और मैं जिस इंस्टीट्यूशन का पार्ट रहा, अनफॉर्चुनेटली उनको उसमें कोई अर्जेंसी नजर नहीं आई। और उन्होंने 10 दिन बाद में पोस्ट किया मैटर को। 27 अप्रैल को, 17 अप्रैल को फाइल हुआ था। और उसके कॉन्टेक्स्ट में एक जो मीडिया एजेंट हैं जो गवर्नमेंट के व्यूज को रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, उन्होंने सुप्रीम कोर्ट के स्टैंडिंग ऑर्डर्स के कॉन्ट्ररी 8:07 रात को फाइल की थी पिटिशन। वो सुप्रीम कोर्ट को इतनी अर्जेंट नजर आई तो उसको 14 घंटे में सुनवाई के लिए ले लिया। किस तरह की इंटेग्रिटी है, किस तरह का कमिटमेंट है हमारा कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के प्रति। चलिए वो एक सब्जेक्ट है। एक बात मैं आपसे पूछना चाहूंगा, हम सब जो लोग बहुत प्रिविलेज क्लास को बिलोंग करते हैं, भारत में उसको प्रिविलेज क्लास ही कहूंगा मैं, क्योंकि आपको दो टाइम की रोटी खाने को मिलती है आराम से, आप एयर कंडीशन रूम में सोते हैं, आपको पोर्टेबल वाटर मिलता है, हम आरओ यूज करते हैं, डिफरेंट इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स यूज करते हैं साफ पानी पीने के लिए। हम छुट्टियां बिताने के लिए पहाड़ों में जाते हैं, या साउथ में जाते हैं, नॉर्थ में जाते हैं, नॉर्थ ईस्ट में जाते हैं। ठीक है शर्मा साहब?
जी सर।
आप सब लोग जाते हैं। गुलमर्ग बहुत खूबसूरत जगह है, खिलनमर्ग बहुत खूबसूरत जगह है, कोवलम बीच बहुत खूबसूरत जगह है। आपने कभी सोचा है कि ये पहाड़ ऐसे कैसे रह गए? आपने कभी सोचा है कि गंगा कैसे बहती है? आपने कभी सोचा है कि ये नदियां अब तक क्यों हैं? आपने ये सोचा है कि ये वृक्ष आज क्यों हैं? बहुत जरूरी है ये सोचना। इसका रीजन है, आप अगर पुराने ग्रंथ उठा करके पढ़ेंगे, जो ऋषि मुनि सेजेस, आपके पुराने पेरेंट्स, उन ग्रैंड पेरेंट्स, दे हैड ग्रेट रेस्पेक्ट फॉर नेचर, दे हैड ग्रेट रेस्पेक्ट फॉर इकोलॉजी, they had great respect for environment. And what we have done today, we have destroyed everything. I luckily was Chief Justice of Andhra Pradesh for a period of 2 years, and you will be surprised to know that at the time of independence, or when the state of Andhra Pradesh was formed by segregation from the state of Madras, it had 3,300 water bodies. And as in 2005 or 6, the number of water bodies was reduced to 300. This must be the condition of the entire nation. It is, as a matter of fact. You can just go to Delhi, you can go to Gurgaon. Everywhere water bodies we have destroyed. I give you another set of example. While sitting on a bench in Andhra Pradesh High Court, or first I come to Punjab High Court, Punjab and Haryana High Court, there was a news report that the students of class 10 were giving examination in a building. The roof collapsed. Luckily, nobody was injured. Now somebody brought a petition before the High Court. Sir, it may collapse on any day. Please ask the state to provide alternative place. He was not a student. He was not a teacher. He was not connected with the school. High Court entertained the matter. When we got the report, you will all be surprised and shocked. That building had been declared unfit for human habitation 3 years ago. Now, the High Court did not stop there. We made an inquiry about all the government schools in the state, right? And do you know that 300 buildings which were declared unfit for human habitation were being used for running the school? The state government of the time, the bureaucracy of that time, never liked that the High Court should inquire into the issue. And when the High Court gave a direction that you demolish all the 3 buildings and reconstruct them, then the Chief Minister was crying, Chief Secretary was crying, entire bureaucracy was crying. Sir, we have to spend 3,000 crores for rebuilding the schools. Another case in Andhra Pradesh, a lady aged 19 years was arrested by police for being an accomplice of Maoist. She was granted bail. She had done nothing. Some persons who are called Maoist and Naxalites forcibly entered her house and made her to provide them meal on a particular night. She had no choice. She provided them with the meal. Police arrested her. The court, which considered the matter, granted her bail. Bail on a bail bond of 5,000 rupees and a security of 5,000 rupees. General Sharma, you know very well. Now that lady was put by the police in a chain which was locked. And she was, after grant of bail, she was inside the jail for a period of 9 months. When it came to the notice of the High Court, we suo motu took cognizance, requested the DG prison to remain present in the court. He was kind enough. The Advocate General came and we found that there are 397 cases in which the bail has been granted to the accused persons. They can't be released because they do not have means to provide surety of 5,000 rupees. That's a public interest litigation. Court took cognizance. Court ordered release of hundreds of them. Supreme Court did it. Water bodies, schools, prisoners, unlawful detainees. Who speak for them? Dear students, you should please make note of it. Who speak for them? If 454 million people do not get meal twice a day, they do not have any idea. One letter, they do not know about the Constitution. They do not know what is C in the Constitution. What is India? They do not know. They know Bharat. They do not know India. Who will speak for them? Now, part 4. Again, read please. The state shall. And we, the people of India, solemnly resolve to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political. And you must understand, state is not the government, not the bureaucracy, not the politics. State is parliament, legislature. State is bureaucracy. And state is judiciary. Judiciary is an integral part of the state, and therefore I am 100% of the view that if the judiciary suo moto or at the instance of any other person refuses to listen to the plight of 70% of Indian people, whether you call it a publicity interest litigation or a private interest litigation or a public interest litigation, judiciary will be failing in its duty to abide by the constitution. Friends, this is public interest litigation. Yes, of late there have been a surge of such cases which have been filed with bad intentions by interested persons, but they are mostly corporate world. They are competitors in the business. They get it filed. Sometimes, unfortunately, judges do here, as in last month, one of the honorable bench of the Supreme Court heard a matter of a person who did not deserve any urgent hearing. But do you think, just imagine, if the Supreme Court had not entertained a petition filed against a person who later on became a central minister, and recently he was chief minister of the state of Madhya Pradesh, you can't imagine what he did. For the purpose of establishing a resort for entertainment, he got the river diverted in Himachal Pradesh. It was the Supreme Court which said that it can't be done. And it is not, gentlemen, the Supreme Court of India or the High Courts in India who alone are doing. As early as in 1872 in United States, state of Illinois, a wetland was sought to be used by the state for construction of highway. The Supreme Court of Illinois said that you can't use wetland for construction of highway. Today, if you talk, if a news, because news media, unfortunately, they purchase commodity nowadays. It will highlight day in and day out that look what the court has done. Court has stopped development. And youngsters will call it a misuse of the power of the court. I will give you another example. It's a case reported in 2009 Supreme Court. The title is Fomento Resort Hotels in Goa. A huge hotel, 5-star hotel. It had additional land by the side. So it approached some ministers, got allotment of that land. Luckily, while allotting, there was a condition. There was a condition that a particular passage which is available to the villagers will not be interfered with while making use of that additional land. Because villagers used to go to beach from that particular place. As the moneyed people do in India after independence, the hotel people constructed 100 additional rooms, blocked the passage. They constructed a boundary wall. Villagers were not allowed to come in. Youngsters, you should think, could those villagers think of approaching a court of law? Or they would be worried about their meals in the evening and the morning. So a gentleman who was educated, he knocked the doors of Goa High Court, Bombay High Court, Goa bench. The High Court studied the documents, found that the hotelier had violated the condition of allotment and quashed it. And that matter ultimately was heard by the Supreme Court. Luckily, I was a member of the bench. And that judgment is of 2009 Fomento Resort. If somebody gets time, please read. Read what we have said about our past, how our previous generations protected ecology, environment, rivers, forest, flora, fauna, which we have destroyed. Who else would knock the doors of the court except the persons who have some public interest in their mind? That is called public interest litigation. And don't go far away. It is Delhi. You must have heard about the news, and you must have heard it as a news and forgotten about it. 10 years ago, 4 persons were asked to go inside the sewer for cleaning it. All 4 died because poisonous gases are there in the sewer. Now, those persons who are doing this work of cleaning the sewer, their families do not know about the Constitution of India. Their families do not know where is the Delhi High Court. What is Delhi High Court? Their families do not know what is Supreme Court of India and where is the Supreme Court of India. Therefore, a gentleman who was interested in raising the public cause filed a petition in the High Court of Delhi. 2 learned judges, all my compliments to them, they entertained the matter, issued directions for payment of interim compensation, and gave several directions to protect all those who go into the sewer. Matter, of course, Delhi Jal Board, they have money at their command. They brought the matter to the Supreme Court. And again, I had the privilege to hear the matter in 2011. In 2011, we said, I will just quote some lines from there. Kindly read it carefully. Listen it carefully. Learned Counsel for the Appellant Delhi Jal Board, who had the tacit support of the Learned Counsel representing the Government of National Capital Territory of New Delhi Municipal Council and New Delhi Development Authority, argued that the impugned order is liable to be set aside because by entertaining the writ petition filed by respondent number 1 in the name of public interest litigation and passing orders stated so and so, the High Court transgressed the limits of its jurisdiction under Article 226 of the Constitution and usurped the legislative power of the state. Learned Counsel referred to directions contained in 2 orders and argued that the High Court does not have the jurisdiction to directly or indirectly alter the terms of agreement entered into between the appellant and the contractor, who was given the contract for sewerage cleaning. And what the Supreme Court said ultimately, at the threshold, we deem it necessary to erase the impression and misgivings of some people that by entertaining petitions filed by social action group, activists and workers and NGOs for espousing the cause of those who on account of poverty, illiteracy, ignorance, and similar other handicaps cannot seek protection and vindication of their constitutional and legal rights and silently suffer due to actions and omissions of the state apparatus, its agencies and instrumentalities of the state or even private individuals. The superior courts exceed the unwritten boundaries of their jurisdiction. When the Constitution of India was adopted, the people of this country resolved to constitute India into a sovereign democratic republic. They also resolved to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political, liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, worship, equality of status and opportunity, and to promote them among all fraternity, assuring dignity of individual and the unity and integrity of the nation. For achieving the goals set out in the preamble, the framers of the constitutions identified, recognized certain basic rights of the citizens and individuals and pulled them in part 3, which has the title Fundamental Rights, and simultaneously incorporated the directive principles of state policy. Though not enforceable by any court, are fundamental in governance of the country. Please mark it, are fundamentals in governance of the country, and the state is an obligation to comply with the principles in part 4 in making the laws. In last 63 years, Parliament and state legislature have enacted several laws for achieving the goals set out in the preamble, but their implementation has been extremely inadequate and tardy, and benefit of welfare measures enshrined in those legislation has not reached millions of poor, downtrodden, and disadvantaged sections of the society, and the efforts to bridge the gap between the haves and have-nots have not yielded the desired result. The most unfortunate part of the scenario is that whenever one of the three constituents of the state, please listen carefully, whenever three constituents of the state, that is judiciary, has issued directions for ensuring that the right to equality, life and liberty no longer remains illusory for those who suffer from the handicaps of poverty, illiteracy and ignorance, and directions are given for implementation of the laws enacted by legislature for the benefit of have-nots, a theoretical debate, the debate which right now we are making, a theoretical debate is started by raising the bogey of judicial activism or judicial overreach, and the orders issued for the benefit of the weaker section of the society are invariably subjected to challenge to higher courts. In large number of cases, the sole object of this litigative exercise is to tire out those who genuinely espouse non-litigation. One court makes order, take it to the Supreme Court. Keep it pending for 9 years, as it happened in Goa Hotel. It came for hearing after 9 years. Of course, I will not talk about 2G matter, where lakhs of crores were squandered by the government. And there was huge criticism of the court entertaining the matter. If public interest litigation was not there, do you think that anybody would have dared to quash that particular grant of license and lost cost to the public running into many thousand crores? Can you imagine? The lakes would have been saved, rivers would have been saved, but for the public interest litigation. And Major General Sharma and Dr. Sharma, you must know also how the nature is saved. It's an incident of 1736 in Jodhpur. There is a village called Khejdi Kala. Students, you go to Wikipedia with the name Khejdi Kala. There was a Raja of Raja Abhay Singh. He wanted to construct a new palace. For that, then he needed wood of Khejdi Kala village. So his minister goes with the manpower to cut the trees. And at that time, an illiterate but well-educated lady, Amrita Devi Bishnoi, opposes that you can't cut the trees. They are our life. Minister said, I have the orders to cut the trees. She said that if you want to cut the tree, you have to kill me. Minister came back with the order from the Raja that those who oppose, kill them. Please read that Wikipedia. 363 people gave their life for protecting the trees. Sundarlal Bahuguna came much later. It is 1736. You can imagine that generation which had the respect for trees. And today what we have done? You have seen the example of RA Colony in Mumbai, where in 2 days 2,000 trees were cut. For what? For creating a shed for metro, where we are traveling. Who will speak for them? Who will speak for the trees? Who will speak for poor? Who will speak for rivers? Who will speak for lakes? This mankind will finish if we destroy the nature. And friends, right now what we are facing, the sole reason is our anxiety to enjoy. I am not telling about the participants or you. I am telling about the human beings, which are worse than any animal. Wet market in Wuhan. Wet market, perhaps all of you are aware. The live animals are boiled and then killed for enjoyment. We are out and out today in the world as a whole to destroy the nature. And the older generation knows very well the nature has immense power to tolerate. It tolerates, but there is a limit. And when the humans cross that limit, the nature strikes back with vengeance. Don't forget the tsunami of 10 years, 5-7 years ago in Japan. In few minutes, the towns were washed away. Don't forget about tsunami in Andaman Nicobar. I had the opportunity to visit after that tsunami, and Mr. Banerjee, who was the Coast Guard at that place, told me, sir, the place where you are standing, I was also standing on the date of tsunami. And for 7 minutes, the water from the sea had disappeared. For 7 minutes, the water had disappeared from the sea. I could see the bottom with my naked eyes. Nature strikes back with vengeance. Therefore, it is absolutely imperative for all of us, not the state, all citizens, to ensure that the nature is protected. The poor are protected. They are our brethren. The illiterate are protected. The have-nots are protected. And if the court does this job, it is no misuse of what you called as publicity interest litigation. Wherever the cases have come, I do not want to cite several examples. At least in one case, we imposed a cost of 50 lakh rupees for a frivolous litigation. The courts do their duty for ensuring that people do not bring litigation for publicity purposes or with oblique motive. But this is a country of 138 crore people. And if out of the cases which are filed, thousands and lakhs of cases filed in the high courts and the Supreme Court in the country, if 0.01% of them are called frivolous litigation, please don't enter into this debate that it is bad. Public interest litigation is bad. In my humble view, the public interest litigation is an integral part of the conscience of the court, and the judges who take oath to abide by the Constitution, because they say, and to secure to all its citizens justice, social, economic, and political. If I were there 10 days, 20 days back in the Supreme Court, I would have definitely directed the government of India and the state government to ensure that those who are walking in 40-degree temperature must be provided at least with the food and water, must be provided shelter in the night. You provide them with buses. What a great dichotomy. Our one minister talks proudly that we are bringing 64 flights from other countries for bringing Indians, and none is bothered about millions who are traveling on foot. 7 months pregnant lady going for 200 kilometers, 300 kilometers. We are not worried about that. We are not worried about some good Samaritans are doing great job. They are providing food to them, but not all. Is it not for us? Is it not for the court to issue a direction and ensure its compliance? We have no dearth of food grains. We have only dearth of mindset. Today, unfortunately, our society has become so selfish that we have stopped thinking about our brethren, our sisters, our small children. They are citizens of this great nation. Let us join together, whether as a court or out of court, do something for ensuring protection of millions of those who are have-nots, who do not have means, who do not have place to live. In 70 years, unfortunately, the governments have failed. 2 counts I would add before concluding, 2 counts on which I would add. The first government of India, 2 fronts, which they rectified after a gap of 50 years. First was compulsory education up to class 10 for any child who is born in this country. Up to 10, if you had provided 10 up to class 10 education and then given him an opportunity, an option to progress further, this country would have been different. Second was free medical help for all citizens. If the state had spent its coffers on providing free health, today we would not have seen the growth of private medical hospitals. They have their own philosophy. They spend huge amount in establishing the hospital and therefore charge the public like anything, which common men can't afford. So the time has come. This, of course, the education bill was introduced and law was enacted in 2010 and enforced in 2014. Perhaps the country would become different after 20-30 years. But you, as youngsters and not so youngsters, can do one thing. As and when you become capable, or those who are capable, can do some great service to the nation. Take a oath today that you will provide finances for educating one child up to class 10. Take another oath that you will plant one sapling every year. And imagine, I can only imagine, I will not live to see that. Imagine if 20 crore people are planting one sapling every year. In 5 years, those 100 crore saplings, out of that, at least if 50% of them survive, there will be 50 crore trees in this country. And we will be doing our service to the nature. Nature, you can call it nature, you can call it Almighty God. Nature is nothing short of Almighty God. So, dear friends, there have been some aberrations in some matters where the court should not have entertained the petition. But those aberrations are not the rule. The rule which has been evolved over last 40 years by the Supreme Court and the High Courts is that we will not refrain from entertaining a litigation merely because the individual's interest is not directly affected. It's not today. We, of course, the law students will know about Hussain Ara Khatun's case, or the case of another lady. But you have to read the one Punjab High Court. It was not Punjab, Haryana at that time. 1964. Those who have visited Chandigarh, I lived there for 11 years, therefore I know the topography of Chandigarh. Sector 9C, there was a plot of land earmarked for public purposes. And as usual, which is the story of this country after independence, at least last 40 years, some interested person wanted to set up a petrol pump on that land which was meant for public use, park, a school, or a common place for the public of those sectors. The pump was allotted, land was allotted for petrol pump. If it had come, it had polluted the colony. It would have threatened the life of all the residents. So when Mr. Daya Swarup Nehra, who became an advocate, filed a petition in 1964, the judges at that time in 1964 were conscious of the right that even though this man is not directly interested, he is not going to be affected. He is not the owner of the plot or the adjacent plot. Entertained the petition, quashed the allotment. That is 1964. That should be treated, in my humble view, as the first case in the country involving public interest litigation. And those who want to read, I would request them to read the judgment of Fomento Resort was the state of Goa. Those who are interested, read the judgment of the Supreme Court in MC Mehta versus Kamal Nath. It is in 1997. That Fomento Resort in 2009. Read these two judgments and you will understand the importance of the court's jurisdiction called public interest litigation. It is, of course, with the change of time, we recognize the change of time. Some judges have also become publicity oriented. They are more interested all of us are interested to see our face on the TV, or we are happy to read our name in the newspaper. The judges are also, some of them are humans, and they feel elated if they are shown on the TV or their name is published in the media, print media. Of course, my view is that they must resist the temptation. The position of the judge, as I was told on the date of my elevation, is just like a widow of old days. Remain aloof from everything, all these allurements, and that is why I told Major General Sharma, please stop calling me Lordship.
जी सर,
I am a very small man. I have little knowledge of the Constitution. I have spent some time in my life in reading, trying to read and understand the Constitution. This is how I understand the Constitution. This is how I feel that as a human being, it is my first duty towards the brethren in the society, wherever it is possible. Remember, all of us must remember. Today it will not look attractive. All must remember, all of us have come empty-handed. When you were born, ask your mother. You were born, you had not brought anything on this earth. And when you will leave, then everybody will live like Sikandar. Sikandar had he said that, please put my hands outside and show to the world that I am not carrying anything with me. So far, the science has not gone to that extent that it can create a situation where Ambani will carry some wealth in the next world. His father, of course, did not carry. These politicians, none has carried. Neither the first Prime Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru carried, nor Lal Bahadur Shastri carried, nor Indira Gandhi carried, nor Rajiv Gandhi, nor our great reservation Prime Minister carried, nor other Prime Ministers carried. None would carry anything with him. The people will ensure that you don't carry anything. So please, whatever you want to do, do something for have-nots of the society. They are representatives of the Almighty God. And for youngsters, perhaps they do not know the name of the God. There are in Hindu, there are two names given to the God. दीन बंधु, संधि विच्छेद करिए हिंदी में, दीन और बंधु या दीनानाथ, इसकी भी संधि विच्छेद कर लीजिए और समझ जाएंगे आपके भगवान कहां पर है. भगवान वहीं बसता है. And friends, before I conclude my narration, I would request all the students of law and non-students of law, please, whenever, because right now you have enough time, read 2-3 books. One is Framing of the Constitution by B. Shiva Rao. It is in 5 volumes. And in volume number 5, there is something extraordinary by an extraordinary human being named Dr. Rajendra Prasad. He was the president of the Constituent Assembly, and his speech on 15th of August 1947 midnight, it is his written letter. In his own handwriting, it is lithograph printed in the book, volume 5. In Hindi, he has addressed the nation. All sections of the society he has addressed in that letter that runs into 5 to 7 pages. Something he said was extraordinary. We unfortunately failed to grasp that. Britishers called the people in army and civil services as public servants. Indian Penal Code also uses the word public servant in section 21. Dr. Rajendra Prasad knew that if we continue with this British tradition, because at that time there was IC and IPS, we changed it to IAS and IPS. He knew that if these people continue to be called public servant, they will become your masters. And in fact, they misguided Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. They misguide even today. Therefore, he used one expression which is of immense importance: servants of the people. From today, you should treat yourselves as servants of the people. I have written in one of my judgments in Punjab and Haryana that they all, right from the President of India to a person who is employed on class 4 job, they are all servants of the people. We must remember that our master is we the people of India. We all are servants. We are paid by them. Money doesn't come from the sky. All of us are paid. The president is paid. The prime minister is paid. The chief justice and judges of the courts paid. Army is paid. Paid by my money. I should have been the master. I'm not, I'm servant. I'm non-entity. Because they are all honorable. They have all taken oath under the constitution to abide by the constitution, to do everything without fear and favor. Please read that letter in B. Shiva Rao's volume 5. And the second book which I will suggest you to read is The Theory of Modern State. This is by a writer from abroad, MacIver, M-A-C-I-Y-E-R, MacIver. 1936 was the first edition and then revised, of course, available. What he said about the state, he said that animals also eat in the morning and evening if they get it. But we are more than animal. The God has given this gift to us. So we should avail the benefit of the gift given by the Almighty God. And we can only do so by serving others. And if you have leisure time, then read one more book by Robin Sharma, The Man Who Sold Ferrari. Some of you must have read it. He has taken you to the jungles. He has taken you to Himalaya. I can only make a wild imagination if our 10 generations ago they had started constructing in Himalaya. There would not have been Uttarakhand. There would not have been Himachal Pradesh. There would not have been Nainital. There would not have been Gulmarg. There would not have been Kilanmarg. It would all have been plain, as it is now in Andhra Pradesh. Out of 3,300, only 300 are left today. There would not be Hussain Sagar. So please feel enlightened. The God has been very, very kind, very benevolent on us. Wherever you get opportunity, espouse the cause of the public, serve the public. If it is necessary, go to the court to espouse the cause of those who cannot afford, who do not know ABCD of court, who do not know about the Constitution of India. Please espouse their cause. Spend some time. There is nothing bad in public interest litigation. Let us not be agents of the corporate world. That corporate world will never be interested. You will have to only imagine the house in which you are living, the university in which you are studying. Who built them? Labor, machines and labor. Who built Nagarjun Sagar? 1,000 workers every day work with hand. Who built Bhakhara Nangal? Who built Bhilai Steel Plant? Who built Parliament? Who built the Supreme Court? The worker. It is not the money. If the money was the only thing which could build everything, then we need not employ anybody. It is the worker who live. And of course, it's not the time. You see every day a huge building coming up, and by the side, there are hutments, hundreds of people living in pitiable condition. They will be removed forcibly once the construction is completed and the beautiful building comes up, because then they are called slums. So friends, public interest litigation is an integral part of the jurisprudence developed by the courts in the country. And in my humble view, this must stay, continue, and strengthened. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Pranshul?
We are very grateful, Lordship, for your this insightful thoughts and the address. Now we'll moving to the question answer session. And the first question is asked by Abhay Kumar. Lordship is asking that Hyderabad case where encounter took place was a good justice if we compare it to Nirbhaya's case. He's asking about your views, Lordship.
Hyderabad case is still under investigation, so it will not be appropriate for me to express any view. That is our judicial discipline.
Okay, Lordship, we understand.
And the Nirbhaya case, you must study of course, the crime was undoubtedly unpardonable, but this crime happens every day in our country. Young man, what is the good name? Abhay Kumar.
Yes, sir. Abhay Kumar.
Abhay Kumar, do you know how many people from Bihar come to Delhi? Does he know?
Lordship, he can only write. His mic is otherwise muted. We will find out from him, Lordship.
Okay, ask him to find out how many people come every year from Bihar, UP, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh to Delhi. How many people from Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha go to Mumbai? How many people from Assam, Jharkhand, Bihar go to Karnataka and Tamil Nadu? Just understand. Now all of them, of course, 2 persons working at my place, they are from Kolkata, right? They stay alone because they can't afford to bring their families. They stay alone for years together to earn livelihood, for feeding their family, their wife, their children, to ensure education, because they know that they have suffered. They did not get education. If they were educated in villages, why would they have come from Bihar to Delhi? So they stay in Delhi. In conditions, of course, Mr. Abhay will know better. When I go for a morning walk every day, now due to lockdown, I can't go. I find at least 50 people sleeping on the footpath. Why? I ask myself. And they live in that poor condition for years together. It's very easy for us to blame them. It's very easy to say that they have mobiles. It is very easy to say that they have these minor technology equipments. Think of their psyche. Years together they live apart. And therefore they tend to commit these crimes. They will, if God willing, the situation improves. And if it doesn't improve, in times to come, we will see every day dacoity and robberies. And open. Who will be the victim, one does not know. Yes. Pranshul, next.
Thank you, Lordship. Thank you, Lordship. The next question is asked by Sriram Tiwari, one of our LLM student. And he is asking, rapidly increase of our population is one of the reason for degradation of environment and other related issues. Can we file a PIL for controlling population for protection of environment so that Apex Court can issue direction to the legislature?
Well, I can only say the present day Apex Court will not entertain this. But certainly a time will come when the court will have to think of controlling population. Politically, what something was done in 1975-76 was criticized. It was considered as violation of human rights. And if I am not wrong, last year, only a few months back, one of the leaders, of course, from a social organization called RSS, its head had talked that we must control the population. Well, if the population is not controlled, everybody in the world will suffer. Everybody will suffer. Why the literate class do not have the population of 6 or 7 people? Why only illiterates have? And of course, the politicians blame a particular community. Do you know why? They don't have source of livelihood. Therefore, they think that if we have a larger number of population, we will be able to earn more. That's the only reason. Among all communities, the people have received the formal education. They want job. They don't want to increase the population. I only take examples of all literate class. We have 1 or 2 children. Why we not have 7? Because we knew the consequences of having 7. But it will be a good thing, young men, that we are able to do something for controlling the population. I wish your PIL is someday entertained by the court.
Thank you, sir. The next question is by Ayush Mishra, and he is asking that we'll have reservation on caste basis rather than economic status. Any solution to eradicate this deep-rooted problem for our country?
Unfortunately, for political reasons, we created caste-based reservation. And young men, I would like to add one thing more. Sorry for digression. Do you know why people are called scheduled caste and scheduled tribe? Have you ever thought why they are treated differently? A simple stroke of pen by the makers of the constitution and subsequent legislators, they wanted to identify a particular set of people with reference to their caste and put them in a schedule to the constitution. And we very gullibly call them scheduled caste and look them with contempt. They are our brethren. Yes, initially the idea was that we will provide them all amenities, education, health, food. That is why Mahatma Gandhi's vision was the panchayat should be an independent unit of governance. Even if we do it today, after 25 years, villagers will not require reservation. The communities will not require reservation. Make it mandatory that all of them get education up to class 10 and an option to progress in life. Till then, well, politicians of all hues, if you have to go to the parliament hall only. When they sit in the parliament, they represent different parties. You go to the parliament hall where they assemble, all are in the same box. There was a article by one of the writers of my guru's friend, Mr. Ved Vyas, way back in 1971 in Rashtradoot Hindi newspaper published from Ajmer at that time. The title was, that is only relevant, इस हमाम में सब नंगे हैं.
अगला सवाल,
same thing.
Sir, next question is asked by one of lawyer who is attending the webinar, and he is asking वर्तमान COVID-19 की परिस्थितियों में जूनियर एडवोकेट कैसे अपना गुजारा करें?
Very difficult, young man, very difficult. If you are working with some senior, then perhaps it is the solitary obligation of your senior to ensure that you do not fix the music. But if you are doing it independently, well, your condition is no better than large number of, rather millions of people who are suffering. Because this middle class, which is suffering on account of the all restrictions imposed, they can't equate themselves openly like the migrant. Unfortunately, we call them migrant labor. They can't do anything. They can't go anywhere. So youngster, if you are having a senior, it is the responsibility of your senior. Well, rest, you will have to wait.
Sir, we are running short of time, but we'll take 2-3 more very interesting questions. One is
Pranshul, don't bother. Of course, it is time you have constraint. Take all questions, send them to my mail. I will answer each one of them to the best of my limited ability.
No, sure, sir, we'll do that, sir. But if you permit, I'll here at the platform, I'll ask 1 or 2 more questions, sir, with your permission.
Sure.
So there is one question. Hardik Gogoya is asking, since the media has not been fair in the recent years, and the actual news are and actual condition are not being presented to the people. Recently, again, communal riots are happening in West Bengal from 1 week, but no media is showing it. Nobody wants to talk about it. How we can control this media system, sir?
About media, you are prompting me to take you to something in the past while I was still in the Supreme Court. We had a petition. Now that the matter is over, I can tell you the truth. Neera Radia, you must have heard about it. Neera Radia tapes. We had 42 volumes of papers. Do you know that foreign agency and no less than Saudi Arabia had given 800 million pounds to media in India to project a particular viewpoint? Today, unfortunately it is, the media is paid. Large majority of them are paid. They represent a particular viewpoint. And therefore, you can't control them. One time, finance minister, a senior lawyer who used to appear before me in Chandigarh and in Delhi, of course, Mr. Arun Jaitley, I had to ask him, Jaitley Sahab, why do you appear before such a anchor whom you know is a useless fellow? Then he said very simply, Singhvi Sahab, हम politicians हैं, हमारे लिए मजबूरी है पब्लिसिटी होना और इसलिए हमें अपीयर होना जरूरी है. तो मीडिया, as on date, no government will have the courage to control, because the government nowadays want to use media for its own advantage.
Sir, another question on the topic, a very interesting question. As far as PIL is concerned, there is no judicial parity among high courts. The same judge sitting in Allahabad entertained the PIL, but when he got transferred to Patna High Court, he says we are flooded with the cases, so can't hear you. Lordship, don't you think that there shall be common training of justices at NJA after their elevation to maintain the parity?
Absolutely right. I agree with you. 100%. 100%. And the judge who said that we can't entertain because we are flooded with the litigation, the better course for him is to quit.
Thank you, Lordship.
He must remember, areas of cases were there when he joined. Areas of cases will be there when he leaves on retirement. They can't be stopped merely because the more and more people come to the court shows that more and more people are becoming alive to their rights and their duties. And if the court refuses to entertain only on the ground that they do not have infrastructure, they do not have time, well, it will be the gravest travesty of justice. He should quit. The judge who says that I will not entertain merely because there is a flood of litigation has only one option. Please write one line to the President of India. I do not want to continue. That's all.
Thank you, sir. The last question, a bit personal. What is your constant motivation in working for the society when people just listen but rarely improve?
You just get me again, because I'm getting a question from my wife.
Okay, sir.
You can now ask the question.
Sir, the question is, Lordship, what is your constant motivation in working for the society when people just listen but rarely improve?
People do improve. I am also a student today. That is the biggest motivation. I try to the best of my ability. I want to learn from others. The questions which youngsters have asked have enlightened me. I will think over it. Whether I am able to find a solution to that is a different thing. But this gives me an opportunity to think. And the moment I stop thinking, then I must die. That's the only option open. Yes, Pranshul.
Thank you, Lordship. This is all from the Q&A section, sir. Lordship will record the questions and will send to you for your remarks. Now I request Professor Dr. P.B. Sharma, sir, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Amity University, Haryana, to present his views on the topic, sir.
Honorable Justice Singhvi Sahab, it was a matter of great delight to hear every single word of counsel and advice given by you during this webinar. And I fully agree with you that the man is the true enemy of man, and it is also enemy of nature, who otherwise is very friendly to man and not only nurtures but saves life also. And we have seen this during the COVID lockdown, that when human activity as well as all our industrial activity is at standstill, the sky has turned blue and holy rivers of nectar have once again started flowing with the water quality which we will be proud of. And therefore, the mute question is that when we go back and unlock the lockdown of COVID lockdown, would the society as well as those in governance would understand the responsibility with which now we have to trade, transact, and protect the interest of man as well as Mother Nature. This is, of course, a tall order, and I know that the judiciary, the honorable courts, have been doing their very best to caution as well as alert the society about this responsibility. But this is something which I think can only be delivered provided people at large are awakened and a massive campaign is mounted to remind them that it is they and they alone can protect their own interest. In our Upanishads is clearly said, Atmana Atmane Bandhu, Atmanev Ripu Atmana. In fact, man is the true enemy of man, and he is the true friend of man also. But it is up to him how he conducts in that manner. Having said this, let me also say that the honorable courts have been doing an outstanding job, and we have a most outstanding Constitution of India with us. And I keep the copy of the Constitution of India by my side all the time to remind myself that here it is, that we have promised for ourselves a bright future on the strength of equality, fraternity, liberty, and our responsibility to ensure that we treat all our brothers and sisters and give them the equal opportunity. But unfortunately, soon after the preamble, I find that the honorable committee which drafted the constitution straight away went to human rights, fundamental rights. It did not really spell out the fundamental duties of the citizen that creates a responsible citizenship, absolutely essential to trade and transact in a democratic society. And we reminded ourselves about our fundamental duties much later. By that time, a generation has grown to the adulthood, and a great damage was done to the nation already. And it continues even now. I'm not sure how many citizens of India are really aware about their fundamental duties, which have been added into the Constitution as an amendment much later in the 70s. Having said this, let me also say that when I was a student at University of Birmingham doing my doctorate degree, I had the privilege of listening to Lord Helsam, the Lord Chancellor of United Kingdom, on BBC in a memorial lecture which he delivered, and the title of that lecture was Elected Dictatorship. And what Lord Helsam was trying to say, that those whom we elect as our representatives, soon after having been elected, start behaving like dictators, as if they are our rulers and not the representatives of the people who elected them. I pondered at that time and thought that what Lord Helsam is saying in 1976 applies more to India than to United Kingdom. But Lord Helsam went to demonstrate that it is this disease of elected dictatorship which has entered even into the House of Commons and House of Lords there in their United Kingdom. Today, I feel very honestly, really speaking, that much of the damage which we are doing to ourselves is not by not having the representatives who are responsible to the people who elect them, and also not consciously working towards creating a law-abiding, responsible citizenship, which is an absolute must to ensure that the democracy is utilized for the purpose for which it has been really placed before us in our Constitution. Having said this, let me say that the important question before me is that while public interest litigations are of course being entertained by court to the great extent, sometime it may happen that they are delayed. But really speaking, the important point is how do I lessen the burden of the courts? Already crores and crores of cases are pending in our courts, right from the lower court to the highest court, the Honorable Supreme Court of India. My judgment is that we are going to court for every simple thing, single thing which we could settle down at our own level. And I've seen during my childhood, courts were not having much burden because the society was law-abiding, responsible, and much of the disputes were settled at the local level in the villages and in the cities, and the courts were given only trouble when people are not able to accept the guilt which they have committed. Can we return to a system by which we reduce the burden of the court and allow our lordship to intervene when really a gross injustice is being done against the people, like the one you have yourself, lordship, mentioned about the plight of the workers who are walking hundreds and thousands of miles, even barefoot, without any support, and that too just because their livelihood has been thrown out of gear and nobody is bothered about them. It is these kind of issues in which the court must come very heavily and must ask the government to immediately bear the responsibility to ensure that the kind of inhuman scene which we are creating on our highways really are taken with tremendous amount of responsibility on our shoulders. Of course, it is the purpose of the government. In my opinion, the government is meant for not only ensuring the welfare and well-being of people, but also fair play and opportunities. So I think today's your learned talk has certainly awakened us. It has touched our conscience. In fact, it has touched our hearts. And I'm pretty sure each one of us who have heard you today, Lordship, would seriously now consider what is our responsibility towards our own self as well as towards our nation and our society and humanity at large. I wish to thank you on behalf of the Amity University, Haryana, and from my own personal behalf for giving us this opportunity to hear your words of wisdom at a time when we are seeking answers to very many fundamental questions now that the lockdown of COVID is around the corner. Thank you so much indeed, Lordship, for sparing your highly valuable time. And thank you, General Sharma and Professor Pathak, for organizing such a highly inspiring webinar by Honorable Justice Singhvi Sahab. Thank you so much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Grateful for your words of wisdom. Now, I
would like to say something on what Dr. Sharma has said, Professor Sharma has said. You are about the pendency of cases and the past where the matters were settled. I will just remind you, Professor Sharma, you used to obey the command of your mother, without questioning it. I also used to abide by the command of my grandparents, my parents. Never questioned them, never fought with them. Society has changed altogether. One of the Haryana poet is not a poet as such, but is a satirist, Arun Jaimini. Very interestingly, in 2 words, he said that during my time, children were born. But in Haryana, after 1990, children are not born. Only fathers are born. Today, the child who is born, he questions the wisdom of his parents instantaneously. And that is why everybody wants to demonstrate his rights. Everybody is bothered about his rights. You are right that we did not include chapter of fundamental duties till 1977. But why I began with the preamble, and to ensure to all its citizens, we the people had taken upon themselves. So there was no need to have fundamental. It was inherent in the preamble. Unfortunately, the leaders failed to communicate. Second part, Professor Sharma, the court system is crumbling due to pressure. The reason is very simple. I gave you only one example, not many. When I went to Punjab Haryana High Court in 1994, in 1995, the Chief Justice asked me to be an expert in a selection committee for judicial officers, 35 vacancies. And do you know that the selection was held after a gap of 7 years? Of course, we could select 23 because we did not find all to be competent enough to be selected. It's a very, very tough process at the grassroots level. And unfortunately, the legislature and the bureaucracy in particular, bureaucracy includes politicians, they are never interested that we should have an efficient judicial system which can dispense with justice and the people feel satisfied. They are more interested that the people remain in conflict. You do not find a lot of litigation between officers belonging to IAS and IPS. Why all other classes are in the court? Think over it. Why recruitment are not made as it is made by UPSC annually? Why not for judiciary? Nobody thinks. In the High Court, there are 450 vacancies today. Recommendations made by the High Courts, approved by the Supreme Court, remain pending with the Law Ministry and the Prime Minister for 6 months. What they have to do? Because they have colored glasses. They want that people who will ultimately, at least their misgiving is that they will favor them. And therefore, they do not approve the appointments. Whenever it is convenient to them, the president will sign the warrants within 24 hours or 48 hours. When it is not convenient, it takes 6 months. At the level of the High Court, at the level of the Supreme Court. That is the reason why we have arrears. If at all we have to reduce the pendency of the cases, we must have adequate manpower and adequate infrastructure in the system. Until that happens, Professor Sharma's question will stare in our face. And one thing more I would like to tell you about nature. Two true stories concerning myself. My grandfather's Bua had purchased a house way back in 1935 in Jodhpur. There were 2 big trees of neem. And in Jodhpur, as right now we are observing in Delhi, there used to be storms. In Haryana, General Sharma would know, there are storms during summer. So is in Rajasthan. So one tree was near a wall of the house, and every year the wall will be broken due to storms. Every year it will be repaired. My great grandmother and grandmother always told my grandfather, let us cut this particular big branch. My grandfather said, don't touch it. So for years together, this conflict went on, but he never allowed that branch to be cut. My father was a lawyer. My grandfather in his business connection went to Kanpur. Father had gone to the court. So no male member was in the family on that day. So great grandmother and grandmother decided that this branch should be chopped off. They called a man. They chopped off the branch, big branch. In the evening, my father gets a telegram from General Hospital Kanpur that your father has been injured in a road accident. Please come immediately. Naturally, son will rush. So by night train, he caught up the night train, went to the General Hospital next day afternoon, met the doctor to see his father. The doctor said, your father is right now unconscious, but he gained consciousness in between and he asked one question. He said something, Ped kat gaya. My father immediately recalled, he said that yes, the branch was chopped off, and when he saw his father, his body had as if it is a chopping of the branch. Second, it happened with me myself. I was in Jaipur. It was 1984. I have the habit of having plants in my wherever I live. So they in that residence, they rented accommodation also. There were plants, a lot of bougainvillea and other plants, tulsi, etc. One day I came from the court. I found that the bougainvillea has outgrown, so it must be trimmed. I took a cutter. As soon as I applied the cutter on one of the branch, you won't believe, Professor Sharma, red color blood flowed from that particular cut. And hence, it is almost 40 years I do not have the courage to cut a branch of the tree. Listen, they are live. We have forgotten Jagdish Chandra Basu, who had shown that they are all living creatures. This is how we must respect nature. And if we respect nature, nature will protect us. That is taken for granted.
This was well integrated as part and parcel of our Sanskriti, the culture. And for billions of years, India remained as one of the healthiest and happiest habitat on planet Mother Earth. Unfortunately, today we are at the bottom 10 in the happiness index, primarily because of
we are having number of masters,
sir,
not servants.
Sir, what about elected dictatorship, lordship? Any views on that?
I told you about what Dr. Rajendra Prasad that said.
Sir.
Let us become not public servants of the people. Who want to become servant of the people?
Right.
Think that we are servants of the people. Things will change. But I am sure during your lifetime, during my lifetime, or General Sharma's lifetime, those public servants will not become servants of the people. They will continue to remain masters. That is why if you today speak openly, tomorrow you will be in detention.
So kind of.
Sharma.
Lordship, may I take this opportunity now to thank our Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, to be here throughout the discourse and here and also share his views with you. Honorable Mr. Justice Singhvi, sir, I will call you. Old habits die hard. We have always been using the term lordship. I will try and not to do so. But sir, let me assure you, and all participants will agree with me, that if we were hearing you in person, today there would have been a standing and thunderous ovation to what you have spoken today, sir. And no wonder I have been constantly pestering you to come and address us, and now everybody knows the reason why I have been doing it. You are a sea of knowledge, sir, and why I call you honorable, because personality and views which are so honorable, sir. If I will not be wrong if I call you a gentleman personified. So it's very difficult to meet a person of your generosity, the humanity that you have shown every time, sir. We are extremely honored. We are very, very fortunate that we heard your views. Just about a couple of days, we had another speaker talking about public interest litigation. Those were the academic views. But what we have heard today is all encompassing, very, very ground to earth, and what everybody must know about public interest litigation. So we are extremely grateful to you. And Pranshul, you and your team of student coordinator and our IT, Jyoti, for organizing it so well. It's very rarely that the Vice Chancellor can spend so much time for any webinar, and the fact that he sat throughout is of course, it shows how important the topic was and how good Justice Singhvi was conveying his views. So we, from entire MET University, I am extremely grateful, and I once again thank Honorable Mr. Justice Singhvi, sir, for what he has shared with us. And I'm sure each participant is going much richer. Forget public interest litigation, but the values that Constitution is giving to us. What we must imbibe those qualities and work and strive to make this country one of the best countries. So, thank you once again to everyone.
I shall remember.
Not only me and you, sir. We are receiving comments in the chat box. Also, salute to sir from the bottom of my heart. Thank you, Amity University, Haryana, for organizing this. So we are very thankful, sir. All the participants and
I'm
viewers
grateful
are
to
thankful to you, sir. We are also thankful to VC sir, director sir, for giving us this platform. And we look forward to organize more interaction of like nature. Thank you, each one of you.
I can only say a very small thing because I'm a small man. My height is also 5 feet and 1.5 inches, so I am otherwise small and otherwise also small. I am thrilled. I am thrilled by what Professor Sharma has said, General Sharma has said, and dear Pranshul, it has been a great time for me. You and your team has made my day, not day. For many days to come, I will remember this. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, sir.
सर लेकिन आज हमारा पेट भरा नहीं, हम तो आपको दोबारा सुनने के लिए औड़े बिछा के बैठे हैं। हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी जैसे ही खुलेगी हम चाहेंगे कि आप आकर के हम सबको आशीर्वाद दें।
डॉक्टर साहब, पहले तो आप घर पे आइए, तो थोड़ा बहुत तो मैं कोशिश करूंगा कि आपको मैं एज ए सर्वेंट ऑफर कर सकूं। Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much,
sir. Pranam. Thank you, participants, for joining us. Thank you so much, each one of you.